everything kind of ties into like when I talk to like mentees or other folks around like why did you jump all around. It's more of like where like challenging and challenge myself and learning has always kind of been a thing that's driven me. But also I want to help other people do their best work. And so like in a test role, I'm providing data on the quality of the build, which is helping the engineers fix issues and make the product better. In a production role, I'm about facilitating communication and clarity. You know, all those things kind of feed into this narrative of just like helping others make great games, great software, whatever it might be.
Well, hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Got another episode of GameLogic Behind the Games, and I'm really pleased to be able to welcome Zach Hooper onto the pod today. How are you, Zach?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well. It's near the end of my day here in London, but I think you're at the start of your day over in Washington. Is that right?
Yep. Nice early morning here.
Lovely. Well, thanks so much for jumping on today. I really appreciate it. Zach is currently over at ProbablyMonsters. Fascinating studio. I believe they're founded by Harold Ryan, ex-Bungie CEO, and some other execs from there, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. And you're the director of production over at ProbablyMonsters, is that correct?
Yeah. I work on production at one of the studios there called Battle March.
Fantastic. So if you don't mind, Zach, the way we always start, just like to allow guests a few minutes to talk through their journey and kind of tell us about how they've got to where they are today. So if that's all right with you, Zach, talk us through your journey and how you've come to be over at ProbablyMonsters. Yeah.
So started back 2007 in the industry. As a kid, super passionate about games. Got into playing Return to Castle Wolfenstein and Morrowind, some of those old games on PC, and then kind of saw the behind the curtains with kind of their mod creation kits, made some mods that weren't great, but was fun to learn, and some levels and like things like GTK Radiant, old editors and tools that going back to now, it's surprising I was able to figure out what to do in them, but lots of passion for that. That kind of sent me on a how do I get into games, but really at the time there wasn't a whole lot of schooling or paths to directly find that. So I went towards kind of general engineering. So I went to like web programming and other things of that nature. Didn't really enjoy that, kind of fell into the industry by chance, starting in test. My first game studio was called Surreal Software. It was a studio under Midway Games back in the day. Joined there and worked on a project, never saw the light of day, but worked with a bunch of awesome people there. Learned a lot on like how game development works. Is definitely kind of where I cut my teeth. Learned a lot on the goods and the bads there of how the game industry works. And then I was there for a few years. Ended up kind of doing QA lead roles there on the project. And then our studio, like Midway, went bankrupt at one point, and our studio was up for sale. We got acquired by Warner Brothers Games. So I joined one of the sister studios there called Monolith Productions. It was a small team. It was really fun to, like, Surreal was awesome. It was like, it's your traditional AAA studio, hundreds of people working together, a bunch of different partners. And so joining Monolith, they had two teams. One was a large team that would eventually make Shadows of Mordor. And the other team that I worked on was smaller, and a lot of the folks that had worked on like Fear, Shogun, No One Lives Forever, kind of that creative core. It was like 20-ish, 25 people when I joined. Still in QA supervisor at the time there. Loved that project. Worked on it for a few years. We ended up shipping that one, which was great. It's called Gotham City Imposters. Kind of a multiplayer first-person shooter in the Batman universe. That one was fun. Still run into people that say, "Oh yeah, I love that game. I played that game when I was in high school," or something like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, I'm glad there's still somewhat of a cult following on that one. Ended up leaving there and going to Xbox. I was there for, I think, across both of the teams I was on, a little under 10 years. Joined Turn 10 Studios there as a lead software development engineer and test. It's a lot of words, but basically focused on QA, making sure that your product was at quality, test strategy. Wrote some bad code to automate things, but that wasn't necessarily my forte or my skill set. Did a lot of things oriented around like how do we make sure the game's performant and learn kind of where we can do better there, which was fun. Worked with a lot of smart people there. Shipped a bunch of Forzas, learned a lot about kind of predictability. A lot of the production processes that I still leverage and utilize come from a lot of the learnings at that studio. And then I decided I wanted to try something different. So the last 3 years at Xbox, I joined the platform team and was a program manager, a technical program manager. And a lot of those terms have different meanings. I did very similar things to production at. I skipped over a piece. Like I did transition in my first role as a producer was at Turn 10. So I started working not in test but in production at Turn 10, helping support the mostly tech teams, their engine, build tools, tech art teams. A lot of that was customer focused, like how do we support the rest of the teams building the game better, faster, smarter. Learned a ton there as well. And then kind of took some of those skills and went to the platform team and worked on the Xbox Series X and S dev kits and the Microsoft game development kit. Lots of words. All that really means is I helped kind of provide developers with the tools and workflows to make games on the current generation of Xbox devices. Worked across a bunch of different parts of Microsoft, worked with a bunch of different studios to figure out pain points. Definitely was like a bigger view of the industry. Like when you're in a studio, you tend to be siloed into the studio itself and really focus on the product you're making, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when you have the opportunity to kind of work cross product on a lot of different things and seeing how studios use your product, it's just a different view and a different lens of things. So I value that a lot. I missed making games. I missed working with artists and designers, mostly focused with engineers and kind of product managers there. So I was looking around and ended up going to ProbablyMonsters, I think a little over 2 years ago. I think 2 weeks ago was my 2-year anniversary there. And joined Battle Barge, one of the studios there. Really enjoy what I'm doing, the team, a lot of the parallels to what I enjoyed at Monolith with a small team and kind of how they worked was what I saw when I joined. So a lot of goodness there. And yeah, been there and enjoying my work ever since.
Great journey, man. You've been in some cool places.
Trying to summarize, I could go into the weeds on anything. But yeah, no, it's been fun, learned a lot. Everything kind of ties into like when I talk to like mentees or other folks around like why did you jump all around? It's more of like where like challenging and challenging myself and learning has always kind of been a thing that's driven me. But also I want to help other people do their best work. And so like in a test role, I'm providing data on the quality of the build, which is helping the engineers fix issues and make the product better. In a production role, I'm about facilitating communication and clarity. All those things kind of feed into this narrative of just like helping others make great games, great software, whatever it might be. But yeah, thanks for the call out.
I think one thing that I kind of thought when I was looking at your career history is actually you've had some pretty decent long stints at most places you've been to. Nearly 10 years at Microsoft, turned 10, nearly 7 years, and obviously nearly 3 years at ProbablyMonsters. So you've had, you've put in the hard yards at these places for sure, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think to me, I enjoy like an environment that supports me, but I enjoy having the opportunity to do different things. So I think even though I've been at places for a while, I think those places kept giving me different things to work on, different challenges, ways to let me grow. So yeah, definitely, I agree.
Nice. So a couple of things I wanted to ask you, Zach. That's all right. So firstly, your time at Turn 10 was when you made that shift from the QA space to production role. Was that a kind of strategic move? Had you had that on your mind for a while? Did it happen quite naturally? What was your thought process there, and how did you manage to make that jump? Because it's probably a jump quite a lot of people would be keen to make, I would guess.
Yeah, so it wasn't a jump I chose, but I definitely enjoy the path that I took and where I'm at now. Microsoft at the time had gotten rid of the SDET group, basically had said that my devs own quality and kind of done some consolidation there. And so I became a dev for a few months, and I'm not great at coding. That's not my forte, not my passion. And so I was looking for where I could help the team, where I could continue to grow. I enjoyed Turn 10 and wanted to continue to work there. And so production felt natural. A lot of the teams that needed producers were teams I supported as the lead SDET. I knew them. I had relationships built up. I understood kind of the workflows. And I had a large test team in the previous project, so I was doing kind of sprint planning for the test team, priorities for the test team, a lot of things that were like foundational pieces of production. So I'd had some learnings there. Kind of transitioning between the two, I think was a good environment because of that relationship. Because my observation and the metaphor I use is as a test lead and our test team, we often become kind of a submarine at the bottom of the ocean, going deep and really trying to understand, like, there's this problem space. Let me dig in. Let me really figure out what's going on. And I had a journey as a test lead, which I still think I'm on that journey some days, but as a test lead to a producer of trying to become like a plane, above the ocean, seeing that 30,000 foot view of the water ahead. They're both integral to kind of making a game, and they often partner together, but the roles are different in that regard. So having that transition, being able to fail and learn in a space that was supporting me, I think was good, because if I just went from QA to production in another org, I think I would have had a lot harder of time. But that was my transition. Still enjoy that it happened, but wasn't necessarily like, I'm going to do this. I think I was always interested in test from the reverse engineering, trying to figure out problems, trying to like dig into like the whys behind something happening. There's a lot of that in production too. It's more with people than with code, but I enjoy both aspects. But yeah, now I've really fallen in love with production. But at the time it was, okay, this makes sense for me in my career, but it wasn't necessarily like, yes, I'm going to leave QA. That's my choice.
Nice. Firstly, I really like the submarine and aeroplane analogy. I haven't heard that before, but I think that's very apt. It's a good way of visualizing actually the contrast there. That's cool. Great. So in production now for you, that's the route you're going to stick with. You think that, you think you found your groove there and that's something you enjoyed in?
Yeah. Production to me, if I look at the challenge space, like people, I think are the most interesting, like challenge and like space for continued learning, how to, be effective in communication, how to disagree and commit, how to align on what to do moving forward when there's, differing opinions. All of those things are areas that I think are really integral to making a great game. And they're more nuanced because they're not go type the code, go make the art, go design the system, which are all super important too. But to me, I've really found a lot of value, and a lot of my background in QA, kind of understanding the depths of a lot of different areas of games, helps me be more empathetic and supportive of those disciplines as I'm thinking about that more intangible, like how do we effectively organize and work together to make a great product and a great team. Like culture matters too. So I found a lot of passion in trying to build good cultures in the places I work too.
Awesome, man. And obviously you started with web engineering. Do you ever dabble anymore? Do you do any web engineering on the side or any other kind of engineering?
No, I have many children's and a busy outside of work life, so I tend to not dabble in much. Games, hiking, that type of stuff is still kind of where I find my own energy. I definitely want to and have spent time trying to get back into like using Unreal Engine more, getting more into those workflows. Had spent more time when I was in test kind of trying to walk through the day in the life of a designer and engineer to build better tests. So I've always found that interesting. Web engineering in a lot of ways was a passion for, like, I wanted to make a website for this purpose, for like this gaming community I was a part of. And I kept kind of diving into that as something when I was in my early years in high school. And so going to college and kind of learning more about that was maybe the passion I had for that would translate to a job. And what I learned was I was passionate about web engineering because I wanted the output, this website for my game community to be fun and cool. But when I went to go make like generalized widgets or looked at like working at a phone companies on their website, I was like, oh, I don't actually want to do that at all. It's not my passion. So no, I think some of the learnings of concepts and kind of approach and structure and IDEs and other engineering workflows have helped me be able to talk better with engineering. So I still look back at that as a valuable few years of my life, but not something I practice regularly.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'd love to ask you, if you don't mind talking about it, about your time at Microsoft. Because obviously you're there for nearly 10 years, and see a lot of brilliant people come out of Microsoft. One could argue maybe in the last 6 months that Microsoft is not people's favorite company right now, given what's been happening in the industry with kind of a lot of layoffs. But how was your time there, and how does it compare being part of such a huge beast in comparison to somewhere like a ProbablyMonsters, right?
Yeah, no, it's the system shock almost is the word when I joined ProbablyMonsters. No, I knew full well what I was getting into. A startup that's still storming and forming around a lot of stuff. That was a lot of what attracted me to being able to affect change, being able to kind of dig in more and work with a smaller group of people that I could, remember their names and know them all and form relationships with. But that's not Microsoft. Microsoft, especially on the last 3 years when I was on the platform team, was working with thousands of different people all across different parts, Windows, Xbox, game studios, external partner teams, all of that. So I think the tactics and the approaches to like communicating, escalating priorities, kind of aligning on things was very different at a large kind of company that had many years of kind of its processes were fixed in stone in a lot of ways. Its ways of working were very much around this culture that had been around longer than even Xbox had been around, right? Like a lot of Xbox was shaped because it's within Microsoft. So simple things like email was king at Microsoft, not so much in a small team, right? Those type of things. So learning about that. And then I think some of the challenges I was working through on the platform side required like a bunch of large organizations to agree, like this thing should be done. And so I had spent more time kind of working at that level, like trying to advocate for, hey, this thing should be done. Let's make sure we're all aligned. Whereas with a team, it's much more of like, how do we all kind of divide up the work and work together on the shared goal we're already kind of forging towards ahead, which I'd had familiarity with Turn 10 and with Monolith before, but It was fun to kind of get back into that. So yeah, definitely very different environments. I enjoyed my time at Microsoft immensely, learned a ton. I think it's just at this stage I wanted to work on something closer to the creative side and kind of be able to iterate quicker, and a smaller team in a lot of ways has the opportunity to do that. Not to say anything negative about the bigger Xbox studios. I really enjoyed working with them, and the capabilities to scale and the products to build are awesome. So
yeah, I mean, two pretty extremes there for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this perception is accurate, but certainly, I would, with my recruitment hat on or any other hat on, kind of, I'd never look at, they've been at Microsoft, they're probably not very good. It's quite the opposite. It seems to be there's a pretty high bar for for any kind of professionals across different disciplines at Microsoft. So the standard of your colleagues, that you work with must have been pretty high, right? I mean, you must work with some brilliant people.
Yeah, I learned a ton. There's people that had, the journeys when I've talked to them, kind of, what's your journey? And they go through their history of kind of how they got to where they are. I'm left jaw gap, like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I ran into people that worked on games I grew up playing and love. I worked with people that had kind of navigated challenges and projects that I really was able to benefit from. So yeah, a ton of awesome people, ton of great learnings. Everywhere I've worked, I've found people that have that. Microsoft was definitely one of those places for sure.
Cool.
But definitely, building a lot of my kind of how I approach things from, learning from others for sure.
Nice. So on to ProbablyMonsters, and obviously not requesting you to reveal any details that you're not allowed to, but if you're able to, tell us more about ProbablyMonsters, because again, as an outsider, like, it looks a pretty cool place to work. I love what I see the kind of culture to be there. I know a few people that work there who are awesome as well. So I'd love to hear from you, Zach. Like, what's it like working at ProbablyMonsters? What are the best bits about the role and the company? And if you were able to share any details of anything you're working on, we'd love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely speak from my perspective, kind of how I've found my time there and what I've learned. Can't really speak towards what we're working on. Excited about it, but can't really speak to the details there. When I interviewed and joined ProbablyMonsters, a lot of what I valued was that culture was front and center in the conversations. At Guide and Power, a lot of the messaging that ProbablyMonsters had was really around a difference in making games. And a lot of why I left the platform team was from trying to find a better work-life balance, trying to make sure I could spend time with my kids, I could be healthy, I could find a place where I could work on something important, which the Xbox Series X and X was important, but a lot of what was built there was around, like, this is an important job that people do 40 hours a week, and we're trying to find that balance. The team that I joined was really supportive of that. So when I wanted to go back into games, I didn't want to go into a place that took my passion for profit and wanted me to work 80-hour weeks and crunch and all of that. And so I was looking for both an interesting project to join, something that would push me to continue to grow in my craft as a producer, but also a place where culture and like caring about other people and trying to build a place in which like we're being collaborative, we're trying to work together to make a shared thing, was part of what they talked about. So when I did interviews, I definitely keyed in on that, asked those type of questions, and the Battle Barge team specifically at ProbablyMonsters, but ProbablyMonsters in general, really shined through as kind of the those are real things there. The people I talked to once I joined expressed similar kind of stories of enjoying where they worked before, but not necessarily finding that good balance of work and life, or maybe not finding like it feeling as supportive to their, career growth. And so kind of seeing a lot of folks that had a shared value and a shared desire to make things better when I joined was really inspiring. And I've really enjoyed my time there. I'm a producer on the team. Is kind of how I represent it. My title is the director of production, but we're a fairly small team, so everyone has to wear multiple hats. I still dig in and do production work. I help where I can. My production team's awesome. But a lot of what I'm still thankful for and appreciative of is that culture, us trying to do the right thing in those environments, is front and center. And to me, that's really important.
Yeah. Certainly I suspected that was the case, and your sentiments are certainly shared by the people I've spoken to at ProbablyMonsters. And I think it's always telling when you don't see many people coming out of ProbablyMonsters. So if you've got a studio where they've got a reputation that, they go in and they never come out, I think ProbablyMonsters are one of those. It's very rare that we would see people there that are looking to move on from there, for sure, probably for the reasons you've mentioned, Zach. So that's great to hear. If you don't mind, I'd love to hear more about your current role and what that entails. So what the role of a producer or director of production might actually do on a kind of day-to-day or week-by-week basis. So do you mind telling us a little bit about that and what your job actually entails?
Yeah. So I think every place is different. And so I'll say from my perspective, good producers are servant leaders. They're helping the team do their best work. They're trying to take that broad view to understand where the specialty discipline-based work is doing the right thing, but maybe not in alignment with other groups towards building a great product for players. So trying to think of it from an experience that we're making, a product we're trying to sell, and making sure kind of the folks that are going deep, that really care about the tech, really care about the design, it still is stitching together in a lot of ways. So that's from like a tactical perspective, that's building out goals, setting priorities on kind of where we're headed, making sure we have milestones that give us a tangible, like quantifiable amount of work. If we say in 5 years we're going to do this, that's so much time and so much what ifs that's hard for us to rally around and kind of make this incremental steps towards the actual product. And so milestones help us really be able to quantify, like, this is the important stage, this is where we're focusing. These things are also important, but not right now. They'll happen in this next stage. So it gives the team a little bit more framing to be able to make, forward progress. And then for me, when I think about direction, it's really around helping and providing kind of a vision of where we're heading. And from a production perspective, a lot of that's around how we organize, how we think about doing work. Cross-discipline to me is really important. So you can build empathy. An artist and an engineer and designer in a room talking about an experience is going to be a richer end result than an artist thinking about their task in a separate space as an engineer and a designer, and then them hoping it all those pieces kind of fit together organically. Those conversations and like working together towards that shared goal is really important. So finding the best ways to support the team and be able to organize that way, whether that be meetings, whether that be actual team structure to support our game features, and kind of working with and supporting the team if they have any questions or feedback or want to see something improve. Here specifically, I've really valued that my team wants to give feedback. My team wants to participate in retrospectives and call out things that maybe aren't going as well as they could be, or things they really like. That really helps me and the other producers be able to kind of continue to craft and tune like how we work is a lot of what production is responsible for. And the team
that, for me, really is a good sign of that. That really is a sign of a great culture.
Yeah. No, I love that. So Yeah, that's a little bit about that. I can give more details if you want to hone in on anything, but it's a little bit
That's
more about
an amazing overview. No, I really appreciate that, Zach. Thanks so much. I wanted to ask, I'm conscious I'm taking up a lot of your time here, but it's an interesting conversation. But you mentioned off camera about your role as a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind telling us a bit about that? Because you must be quite passionate about that.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed managing people, not from the fact that I have people that I can then prioritize to do work, but from the fact that I'm helping them grow in their career and trying to line up work within the company to what they're passionate about. And I love to see them grow. There's people that I worked with. One of my test teams at Turn 10 actually had a handful of people I got really close to. We worked together and we really did a good job, in my opinion, shipping a product as a team. And they've gone to be like a lead producer and lead designer and all over the industry. And we still keep in touch. And the conversations that I have with some of them about like how this thing I did or these conversations we had really helped them feel confident or feel motivated to like try this thing that led to where they are. I'm not taking credit, just a small piece of, them being motivated to do the work that they are 100% the people that drove that. That fills my cup. That makes me feel like at the end of the day, the projects I work on, the processes I make, the bugs I file, whatever, like that'll all be gone. But like if I'm on my deathbed and I'm thinking about like my career as a snapshot, it's how I helped other people, and helping other people find their passion in their career has been the most rewarding piece. So what I've done kind of from that is try to seek those out. So I've part of the Seattle Indies mentorship program, worked with multiple people out of college, early in career, really enjoy that just from being able to connect people with people in the industry, but also to be able to kind of help them understand terminology, help them like dig into like, what does this mean? Like, what is a producer versus a designer? In the college environment expresses it in like a very, here's how it works perspective, but there's so much nuance. So hoping kind of provide that to them and coach them on that, prep for interviews, resume reviews, all that stuff. And a few of them have gotten in the industry and have been really excited. We've had like celebration. Oh, this is awesome. You were able to get in. A few are still working, trying to find their ways there. But I've enjoyed that. Amir's community on LinkedIn. I'm part of the mentorship program there.
Awesome.
And so have found a few people through that I've done mentorship with as well. And then there's Game Devs of Color. I was a booth volunteer there a while back, and I've connected with a handful of those folks and still have regular mentorships with them to find ways for them to benefit from folks in the industry and just find ways in, and multiple of them have, and it's been great to still catch up and talk with them. So more just a person to hear how they're doing, ask questions. It's about them, not about me. So it's whatever they want to talk about, and I can help provide like, hey, we could talk about this if you're interested, or hey, what I've heard you say really makes me feel like you want to do this thing, like because I have the experience to kind of get an idea of what that job might be day to day that they don't necessarily know the words to yet because they're still trying to figure out their way. So yeah, really rewarding, really enjoyable stuff. Definitely something I enjoy doing.
That's amazing. Top man. Good on you. Couple of things left, if that's all right. Obviously, given the turmoil we've experienced in the industry, it's been pretty brutal for a lot of people the last 9-12 months or so. I'm wondering, Zach, if you could give kind of one bit of advice to anybody currently out of work looking to get back into a role within the gaming industry, what advice would you give?
It's a super hard situation for people in that, right? It's their livelihood, it's their bills, their kids' ability to put food on their plate, like all of that. It's a real serious thing, and so yeah. I don't want to come across as knowing where they're coming from. I can be empathetic to where that's at, but I'm not in their shoes right now. I think it's important to be optimistic. It's important to kind of try to find ways to be positive in the job search, to continue to work through that. I think to me, where I've really seen a lot of success in like us working together is through trying to find network and find communities that can help, that can advocate for. There's a lot of people right now that are doing resume reviews. They're doing community workshops, a lot of volunteer game studios doing game jams just to get more on your resume, to get more experience, to kind of keep those skills sharp as you're looking. So I think leaning into those type of communities, whether it be on Discord or LinkedIn, can help you find a lot of folks that are in your lived situation and can empathize with you, and you can feel like you have a safe space to talk with others about kind of what you're going through and get more tips and direct feedback there. Those reaching out to people and asking for help, I think is expressing your situation is also fine too. I've definitely had multiple people reach out saying, "Hey, I'm looking for this. I'm needing help, with this specific thing. Do you have time?" A lot of folks want to help. The industry bonds together in these times. So trying to kind of know you're not alone. Other people are here trying to support you, and know that this is a tough, real thing that impacts your life. And so trying to find those communities that can help kind of stay positive, even though it's not a great situation.
It's a brilliant advice, Zach. Thanks so much. And yeah, just to kind of echo what you mentioned about it being such a tough time, also I'm very fortunate to not be in the position that so many are in. And I think it goes without saying, our hearts go out to all of them. And we just hope that, there are better times ahead for us all in the industry. I think there are. I think there's some good signs that we're now finally moving in the right direction, and I hope that anyone who's been negatively affected finds themselves in a better situation very soon. So yeah, thank you for the advice. That's amazing, Zach. Final question, which we always end on,
Sure.
On a lighter note. Would love to know if there's anything coming up in the next few months or this year that you're looking forward to playing.
Ooh, looking forward to playing. I have such a huge backlog. I tend to buy games, play them for a few minutes, say this was a great game, and then want to go back to it. I've been really into roguelikes and even like roguelike deck builders, and that's just like Slay the Spire. I've been getting really into Balatro. I've been really liking that. And then just in general, roguelikes like RoboQuest, really into that a ton. So those are kind of the core things that I'm interested in playing right now. As far as what's coming up next, there's been so many indie games I've picked up and wanted to play that Manor Lords is great. Been playing that.
Yeah.
Great strategic game. So a lot of where I've been focusing on is less of like what's that next release and more like what part of my back catalog can I just play more of. So that's definitely where my heart's at for sure.
I've been exactly the same. I was like, Helldivers 2, awesome. I get that. And then Manor Lords comes out and I'm like, I'm still playing Helldivers 2. I haven't had time to go into Manor Lords yet. And then somebody else will come out and then I'll finally get Manor Lords. I'm always kind of one step behind, I think. But similar to you, I think.
I do have one. A coworker recommended Animal Well, which I bought but haven't played.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I've heard it's a game that has a lot of experiences that are unique. And I don't want to spoil anything, but like the experience is like one of a kind. And there's a lot of interesting things that kind of go beyond the surface level of the game. Lots of depth and secrets. Right, okay. Very well-reviewed game. Very excited to play it, but have purposely tried to avoid spoiling anything that I've heard, even anecdotally. So,
okay, I might take a look. Nice one, Zach. Thank you so much for your time, man. Like, you've been an amazing guest. I've taken up over half an hour of your time. I could easily speak to you for hours, but thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you. Thanks for the opportunity and your time as well.
Absolutely. All the best. I'll speak to you real soon, Zach.
Take care.
Cheers, man.